Okay, good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to the day, week speeding by. L'chaim to those that are joining us with their morning coffee in hand. A little dressed up today. We're started the business day early today. Thanks so much for joining us. For those that are here for the first time, for those that are coming back, thanks for coming back. We are charting ourselves through trying to understand how to overcome challenge and how to grow, especially during this period of time. What we've been talking about this week has been this idea of thinking and acting, and how if we mix it up, we end up failing. If you're going to think through the play during the play, you're going to get tackled. You're not going to watch a fastball come at you and go, should I swing at this thing? Oh, maybe. By the time that's over, it's 3 strikes and you're ready on the way back to the dugout. And we do this because we just don't think. We don't have time to think. Because when we're in our cars, we're listening to something. It's nice, and you should every once in a while, but not constantly. I've had this before, by the way. I kid you not. I was driving to Baltimore. I missed those drives. I used to complain about them. I ran a project for a company years ago in Baltimore. And I would drive back and forth every week for weeks. And I remember downloading, this is when podcasts were first starting, 20 podcasts. And I would just get in the car, take the turnpike, the 95 all the way down, stop for large cups of coffee, and just listen and listen and listen. And I remember one time driving back and being I heard 5 hours of information today. I don't think I've processed any of it. It's just a nonstop. We don't think. We just, even thinking now isn't thinking. Thinking now is digesting information. We think thinking is listening to somebody else talk. Okay for 20 minutes. Okay for an hour. Okay for 2 hours. But whenever I have a free second. And because we don't spend time thinking, our brains just react to the world around us. Because action comes from your brain. It doesn't come from your body. You don't act because your arm wants to move. Your brain has to give the signal to your arm. And real action, action that is excellent, comes from your subconscious brain, which means your brain has to have thought about that action so many times that it is now instinctive, right? 2 people eating cereal, you got the 18-year-old across from the 2-year-old or the 1-year-old. The 18-year-old eats cereal 1,000 times better than the 1-year-old. Why? Not because they don't have they have different potential. It's because the 18-year-old has done cereal so many times that his brain knows the action so well that he can do it without thinking. The 1-year-old's just learning, so he's missing his hand and things get all over the place. Just take that and extrapolate that to life. One husband comes down the steps and sees his kids or his wife, and it's instinctive for him to be happy and positive and empowering and complimentary. And one of the husband comes down the line, and it's instinctive for him to be hey, it's about me. To say a comment that's passive aggressive. What's the difference? Not the potential. Both of those guys, most likely, when they were under their wedding chuppah, they looked at that woman and was like, this is the best day of my life. But one guy created a habit. His brain has in his subconscious the trigger. Walk down the stairs, see the woman you married, say something nice. You feel tired, say something nice. You feel like she owes you something because say something nice. And one person comes down and doesn't have that habit. It's brain activity. We have to demystify our brains. Our brain is a machine. It's a computer. It's all it is. It's a computer. It's not more impressive than the most impressive computer in the world. That's impressive, but it's not our soul. It's not our identity. It's a muscle. It's just the command center. You got to just reprogram it. So my action really comes from my thought. So if I want to change my actions, I got to really go to the source and change my thinking. So therefore, if I don't spend time in thought, I'm going to be doing the exact same thing my whole life. That's a major fundamental flaw of life, is that we think because the details are changed, we've changed. You don't change because your details change. You change when your mind changes. You change when you can reprogram, you can revise the software in our brains so that not only do our details change, but the way we deal with those details change. I'm throwing a temper tantrum when I'm 9 that I didn't get my Game Boy back in the days, if you remember Game Boy. Today you'd be throwing a temper tantrum if you did get your Game Boy. I'm throwing a temper tantrum at 17 because I didn't get the car. I'm throwing a temper tantrum at 50, 45 because I didn't get the deal. The tantrum changes. But it's the same response to not getting what I want. Now stick with me. If thought is what directs action, if you want to change, not only do you have to be working on your actions, but you really got to be working on your thought. Now, if every time you have a thought, that thought creates neuroplasticity, thinking, that's how you learn things, right? If we learn a new language, what happens? You hear it, and then it goes into your mind. So thinking is what creates the connection between the object and cup, for those who remember yesterday's talk. If I move to Israel, and all of a sudden everyone goes kos, 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 and I'm like, what's a kos? And one whispers and goes cup. And I hear it once, twice, I have a connection. Kos is cup. If I live in Israel for the next 20 years and I hear the word kos a million times, I'm gonna have a neural connection in my brain that says it's gonna trigger. It's gonna be automatic. I may be walking into a store and I'll be like, can you give me the kos? It was instinctive. How did it become instinctive? Because it became thought. And the thought led to the action. But what that means is if you really want to change, you got to change the thought. Now, this is what we spoke about yesterday, this idea that when you go into a scenario that you're unfamiliar with or that you want to change, if you are who you are, which means you're relying on your thought to direct your actions, how are you going to change? This is the big reason why people don't change, because you get caught in a catch-22. If let's take an easy example. If every time I walk into my kitchen for 25 years of my life have reached for the thing that tastes good and not healthy for me, and now I want to change. When I walk back into the kitchen, I've got so much neuroplasticity that says reach for what tastes good. So how am I going to change that? Who is giving me another perspective? My brain is telling me to reach for what tastes good, not for what's healthy. So my soul may be giving me the ability to restrain myself. But I need new thought. I need new neuroplasticity. I need healthier, revised ways of seeing the world. So what I do is I act as if. I tell myself I'm healthier than I want to be healthy. I want to pick I act as if I am healthier. And I don't feel healthier. And my brain has been telling me, because I've got so much neuroplasticity, that triggers when I see food, eat it until you feel full. Yesterday I was on the phone with a great guy, and he said to me, I'm trying to make it in this world. And his business requires making cold calls. He goes, I have nobody to call. Because in his world, he's used to an environment like this. So when he gets that phone, he's used to what he did in the past. But the way you break it is when you act as if. When you create an image in your mind of who you want to be, not who you are. It's different, and even those words are complex, because the way you really say it is not what you do, and you can get that by your own imagination. You can get that by other role models in your life. That's why role models are so critical. The reason why role models are so critical is because they provide a picture for people as to how to act that is beyond themselves. So when they're in the situation, they can think about their role model and act like them. Doesn't mean they have to become them. But now their brain has a picture. Neuroplasticity, it has neural connections that can enable them to do something else. So when you walk into a scenario and you act as if, you interpose almost like a different neural framework as to how to act. It doesn't feel like you. You feel like a hypocrite. That's not what I say. That's not what I do. I've never done this before. People around you may think that you look different like a hypocrite, but what you're really doing is you're enabling your mind to create all this new neural connections. Not the neural connections that you had, but the neural connections that you want. You're hacking your mind. And what you're doing is you're using thought. You're using the ability to think about, to be proactive, to now shape your mind in the way that you want it to be shaped, in the way that it should be shaped, not in the way that it was shaped. This happens every once in a while. If I get a call from somebody who's struggling with something, I can tell almost right away. They had a difficult past. There was someone in their lives that said that you can't and you're not good enough. They competed with some family member and lost. And it just manifests with them forever. They just continuously have that neural connections that you're not enough. And the only way they get rid of it is if they just suspend that judgment for a few minutes and act as if. I spoke to someone yesterday who was on the brink of marital disruption. This is happening around the country right now. People are living together, and for some marriages, it's awesome. For some marriages, they're about to kill each other. And he said, the guy's like giving me like a million reasons why his wife is terrible. And I'm like, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to give you a book to read. One of my favorite marriage books is called Garden of Peace. I want you to read it. And I want you to, as I told him, like, I want you to suspend your judgment for 30 days. He's like, this guy's a really smart guy, really successful guy. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah. Like, suspend your judgment. All that brain activity. You want to change your life? And if you trust me, you can read the book. I'll talk to you about it. You're going to put whatever the rabbi says in practice, and you're not going to think for a month. You're going to think, but you're not going to rely on the way you've treated her. And then in a month from now, you'll reassess and make decisions. That's called acting as if. You interpose the higher way of doing something on you and your mind, and you live it for a little bit, and you allow your mind to orient around a higher level of living. And now your life is slowly being directed based on a proactive approach to life versus based on a reactive approach to life. This is exactly how repentance works. This is exactly why something like a Yom Kippur even makes sense. This is how inspiration changes our lives. And this, the drop, the trap that doesn't feel like me. Yeah, it's not supposed to feel like you. It's supposed to feel like a different version of you. I get that all the time, but I feel like a hypocrite. Yeah, it feels like you're a hypocrite when you try to become something that you're not. That's called growth. If you talk one way and do another way, then you're a legitimate hypocrite. But if you're trying to grow, that's not hypocrisy. That's called growth. Growth is to be somebody that you are now not. That's what growth is. You grow from being a high school kid to being a college kid. It's growth. You are no longer a high school kid if you're in college. You're not being hypocritical. It's called life. Okay, now in real life, it's all gray, so you don't have those clear demarcations of time. But by the way, this is what makes life so much fun. You're not bound by your past. You don't have to repeat every mistake. You get to, so to speak, act as if you're somebody greater than you are, not because you're faking it, but because you're really trying. But there's a couple of traps with this. This isn't like, this isn't like, really? Let me pop the pill and I'm good. No. It's hard. It's super hard. That's why we gotta do this every day. I would do, like I said, we had a call last night. I would do this for an hour with you every morning if I thought everybody would stay on for an hour. It's hard. And the reason why it's hard is because your brain doesn't just pop neural connections that are solid from the first second. It builds slowly. For better or for worse, by the way. Because every time you had a bad habit, it was like rock solid. You never grow. The way God works it is that like it slowly builds and it slowly comes away. It slowly builds. So it takes time. You can change immediately, but it takes time for you to force this on yourself. Force this on yourself and force until slowly. It feels a little bit more normal. They did this research with, I'm going to give you 2 bits of research that really shifted me when I saw this. The Navy SEALs, this is in the book for those that have it. The Navy SEALs had a big issue. The Navy SEALs is one of the most elite fighting units on the planet. In the U.S., for those who are tuning in from outside the world, outside the United States, is the United States Navy SEALs. They have this training program where they wean in already some of the greatest soldiers to becoming of the most elite. And the research shows there was this research that there's a situation that they were in, which is that the last test that they did, like in this training process, was they had put the recruits into a pool. Now they're SEALs. They're SEALs. It starts with C. They're in water a ton. And it seemed like a pretty simple exercise for them. They had to go underwater with oxygen, scuba diving gear, and all they had to do was hang out underwater until a certain amount of time, and then they had to touch the floor and they had to swim up. So they put them in, they go underwater, and as they're underwater, what they do is they take 3 or 4 instructors, and the instructors dive in, and they go around that recruit who's now underwater, like with a thing, and he looks around. There's 4 tough, big, strong, officers, and they swim up to him and they just punch him in the gut, and they rip out his mask, and they tie it in a knot, and they pop him in the head. This guy's underwater getting beaten up, and they just leave. Now, they're trained to deal with adversity underwater and to stay calm. All they had to do was just take the beating, 10 seconds. The trainers go back up, and then just like gather yourself mentally. You're underwater. Grab your mask, untie the knot, put it back in your mouth, stay where you are, touch the thing, go up. They've done a lot harder. And they found that lots and lots and lots of really good recruits are failing. And they weren't going to lower their standards, but they didn't want to let go of such incredible soldiers. So they called a team of psychologists. Listen to this. A team of psychologists had them do really 2 things. The second thing we're going to talk about, I hope, next week, called speaking. We're not up to speaking yet. We're still up to thinking. Once we're done with speaking, Navy SEALs, the C, S is for the C. Once they start with speaking, once we work with thinking, then we'll get to speaking. So they take these SEALs and they put them in a room, not far from the pool, and they have them close their eyes, and they have them go through the entire experience that they're about to have. They didn't go through it yet. They're about to go through in their minds. They have to just picture it. I'm in the pool. I'm underneath the pool. And then, how does it feel to have, you're looking and seeing 4 big guys swim at you. All of a sudden you can see like the heart rise a little. You can feel the heart rise a little bit. Get hit in the gut, punched in the face. And the SEALs have to go through a vivid visualization of this experience. But while they're going through it, they have to picture themselves dealing with it with calm, with strength. Keep it together. Don't panic. It's all happening in their brains. And if they go through it a couple of times in their brains, they put the SEALs in the pool, and from that and just one other thing, they saw the increase of passing rates by over 25%. How's that possible? Can they or can't they survive the attack on the water? The answer is it's thought. When you visualize something, you start to create neuroplasticity that never happened before, so that when you're in the scenario, your brain says, we've been here before. I've seen this before. I haven't done this before. But remember, my actions come from my brain, not the other way around. We have to get much more aware of the power of our brains and the power of our thought outside our actions. And we're going to use to the next day or two these techniques called visualization, called acting as if, to start to train our brains to see things and have thoughts about things and build neural connections about things that we may never have experienced yet. Because if we can start to learn how to use the computer properly, it will start to direct our actions and not the other way around. So until then, hopefully we'll do this tomorrow for those that are sticking around with us. We'll hit this a lot stronger until I hope, spend some more time on it. Until then, remember, every day is meant to be as awesome as it could be. Fight for awesome, choose awesome. And it's really been an honor to be with you today. And thanks so much for your time and attention. And with God's help, can't wait to see you tomorrow. Have a great day.